Hello and welcome to the IoT Show. The IoT Show is a discussion amongst knowledgeable people in the industry talking about topics of the industrial Internet of Things and the Internet of Things. We're amongst friends here, and the objective here is to talk about topics, situations, opportunities and gotchas within the industry and particular areas of implementation of IoT and industrial IoT. So I'd like to welcome our three guests. Thank you very much for coming in. There's Bill Boswell from Siemens, Joseph Waldl, is it correct? From AWS, Amazon. And online we have Diego Tamburini from Microsoft. So let me just, hi. Let me just hand over to each one of them. They can give you a bit of background on themselves and their organizations. Bill?
Okay, great, Malin. Well, thanks for having us here in the discussion today. I'm head of marketing for MindSphere on our cloud application solutions for Siemens. MindSphere is a cloud-based open IoT operating system, so we're really excited to be here today to talk about IoT and IIoT.
Great, thanks. Joseph?
Hi, I'm the global partner ecosystem lead for industrial software at Amazon Web Services. Industrial software covers all types of partner applications for three value chain steps: product design, production design, and production. And we manage a large ecosystem of partners that help us bring the value of our platform to the end customer.
Great. And Diego?
Hi, my name is Diego Tamburini. I'm Principal Industry Lead for Manufacturing in our AZURE Engineering Division, our cloud team. And our team works with the AZURE product development team, providing the industry perspective, the unique opportunities and challenges of the industry so that they can develop the best platform for manufacturing. And of course, a big portion of that is IoT. So in order to do this, we engage with industry and industry organizations, industry influencers, so we can learn as much as we can about the industry and apply it to our platform.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody. So this show, as I mentioned, is amongst friends. We are very keen to try and help you, the listener, understand how to benefit from the industrial IoT and the IoT, how to apply it, and some of the gotchas as well. So I think as an opening, I'd like to just ask each of the companies, what their view of what is the industrial Internet of Things, just very briefly. So Bill, give us your view.
Sure. Well, I think that the industrial Internet of Things is really the Internet of Things almost on steroids, because when you think about what has to happen in manufacturing, it's really about the context. So it's not enough just to have single connected sensors or kind of simple networks. What you're really dealing with is automation systems that are very complex, often brownfield equipment that's been in facilities for years, thousands of sensors, particularly on any machine or any pump or a locomotive or a wind turbine, anything that you think of. And so the way I like to think about it is context becomes really important for it. It's not enough to just be able to monitor a signal and say that it moves. You have to really know a lot of domain knowledge about what it is that you're looking at to be able to make smart decisions with that data.
Great. Yeah, very interesting. Diego, how about you? What do you think?
Well, the definition I like to use is very basic. It's a network of, the IoT is a network of devices that are connected to the internet and are sending sensor data and commands to each other or to and from software systems. And of course, the industrial IoT is where these devices are basically not consumer devices, that is industrial devices. And I think that the IoT is really mainly about data. I mean, you have these millions of devices that enter the internet ecosystem, generating huge amounts of data that need to be interpreted and from which you need to get insight.
Great, thank you. Joseph, how about yourself?
I think adding on what both of you said, I think when you have these masses of data from all these sensors, from brownfield applications, from new sensors that are deployed in the field, you really need a powerful center point to do all this application. Just to give you a data point, an oil platform generates approximately 100 terabytes per week. Approximately 10% of this is streamed onshore for additional analytics. This is by far more than a lot of consumer IoT applications can handle. And I think therefore it's very important that we get the connectivity there, but that we also have the right analytics in the back end, and that we can do analytics wherever in the world, because all those industrial applications are not only located in one area, like a continent or whatever. A lot of these companies that are the customers really operate around the world, and therefore it's critical to have services in place that also can analyze that data globally.
Right. So let me go on to the next question and just say, why is, what is the value proposition for industrial IoT? Why should companies think about the industrial IoT, and why is it important to them?
So industrial companies, first of all, work with their own with large capex, and they try to optimize the use of the capex and optimize a variety of KPIs. The best known is equipment uptime, overall equipment efficiency, but also energy optimization with all the renewables, and fluctuating prices comes into place. This is the one part, and therefore all sensor data, basically all data on status of things out there, on equipment out there, and additional analytics helps to improve those KPIs of productions. The other thing is business models change. Companies that have sold big machinery like paper mills or whatever will sell paper by the hour or valve operating hours or whatever. And you can only sell something as a service in a by use model if you know the status of a system in operation to make it economically viable. And this is the next big thing that we see with working with our partners and customers, that industrial IoT really helps those industrial end customers to change their business model to a more service-like model.
Okay, Diego, I mean, have you got?
Piling on what Joseph just said, is basically IoT investments help the top line by adding more revenue opportunities, and the bottom line by reducing waste or reducing expenses. So new sources of revenue, for example, attached services like predictive maintenance and optimization services. And I mean, for example, predictive maintenance in high capital equipment, the savings in predictive maintenance alone justifies the IoT investment very quickly. And then there is also the ability to deliver new customer experiences. Connected devices support new and interesting scenarios, and like Joseph mentioned, the product as a service models are enabled by the IoT. And lastly, the insight that the data is sending, particularly around how your product is being used, what features are being used the most or not used, that provides valuable insight to prioritize the features in design, or for example, to identify upsell opportunities in your sales department.
Great, very interesting. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, I think that it's really a lot of interesting possibilities of this, and when you look at the use cases, it goes beyond just the obvious monetary use cases as well. You can imagine what happens if you have to take a train out of service that's already running on the line, right, because a door didn't close properly. So you want to be able to do things like condition-based maintenance and understand what failures are going to happen and be able to schedule returns or repairs when the asset's not in use. The use cases that we're seeing across industries are really just amazing. Even the term smart maintenance means different things in different industries. And so that domain knowledge that we talked about, whether you're looking at an automation system with PLCs, or you're looking at mobility systems or smart grids with energy management, it means different things to different audiences. But we see IoT being adopted across all of those areas. And it really comes down to, I think, the ability for people to be able to see a place to get started, right, and get started fast on that.
Yeah, Fascinating. So, Diego, I mean, let's talk about how one goes about justifying the investments into IoT. Do you see any common themes, or is it very predictably verticalized? I mean, give us some sort of feedback on that if you can.
So yes, one thing is don't underestimate the complexity of an IoT project. But before starting an IoT project, my recommendation will be to focus on one and only one business problem. So have it really clear what is that you're trying to solve or improve, and then identify the key KPIs that will let you know if you were successful solving that problem. So then when you do that, the next step is to identify what is the data that you need to solve that problem, and start the IoT project by using simulated data first. Real device come later. Do a proof of value, see that you are successful, and start with small and incrementally grow the complexity and the number of devices and the number of standards, etc. Start small, start easy, identify one problem that you're trying to solve.
Sage advice. Joseph, have you got anything to add to that, or is...
No, our experience is very much along the lines than what Diego has just said. It is important to start small. What we also see that it is important also to gather data quick, because it's not in a way that you build up an IoT system and then you have all the predictions. Predictions need data, therefore start to collect data even while building up the whole system and the analyzing algorithms. And the other thing is, what we saw is start with small teams. In Amazon there is this saying of 2 pizza teams, approximately 8 people. Do not build big organizations for defined problems and do sprints like 6 to 8 weeks. And you can also do it in parallel. We've had very good success with customers and partners that had 3-4 teams working in sometimes also a bit competitive manner, and then stop, see what you've learned, and then reconcile and go for the next sprint.
Great.
And if I may add something to, Joseph mentioned something really important, that if you are planning to use IoT data to do any sort of predictive analytics or predictive maintenance, these things don't work from day one magically. People don't sometimes miss the fact that particularly machine learning models need to be trained with a lot of data, and in order to do that, that's probably the hardest part of an IoT project that is using predictive analytics. Is say, for example, if you're trying to predict failure, you need a lot of data that illustrates when failure happens, and you need to identify what are the sensor parameters that are important for failure, and even what failure means to you, to train these machine learning models. They don't work from day one when you turn on the system.
Okay, Bill?
So I think one of the exciting things, though, is that as we look at these cloud-based IoT systems, we're able to help companies get started fast with that. So you don't have to be a large company with lots of data scientists and programmers to work initially on the machine learning. We're seeing small to medium-sized companies being able to hook up assets today that are already support OPC UA as an example, or other protocols, and be able to really, just from the condition monitoring and alarming and alerting with simple thresholds, are able to realize a big benefit to that, and then move into what do I do now with more of the machine learning and the AI types of applications. And of course, I agree 100% with what the previous speakers have said about start with the end in mind, and make sure that you know what you're analyzing and what you're trying to accomplish with the data. But the neat thing about the cloud is that small and medium-sized companies are able to get started with a lot of out-of-the-box applications that help them move much forward more quickly than they could have if they were trying to develop it themselves.
I just to sort of add to Peneth, actually, there's a number of companies have talked to me about pre-populating the data sets that are used for these types of machine learning environments. So that also helps, bypass some of the early data gathering stages.
Yes. I think I'd like to add something on what Bill said, because I think it's really important for a lot of companies that need to make decisions. The one thing is companies need to understand where their core strengths are. Core strengths can be build a better robot, build a better paper machine, build a better oil rig. And then there is all this analytics on top of it, where they can get better in operations or change their business models. But having said that, the more companies build up from scratch, the more they need to get software companies. That means they will have internal departments, they will have data scientists, and this is a change in a company itself. This is where we work a lot with customers to help them. But on the same time, there is a lot of partners from us and from other companies that specify specific problems in the industry, like predictive maintenance on big motors or whatever. And this is standardization, like in any other, like in IT history, basically, that drives a lot of value for customers. I think that needs to be answered for each company on a strategic level. What do I want to be? Do I want to be an analytics company? Do I want to compete there? Do I want to use software that makes it easy for me to get to results fast? And then very often we see hybrid scenarios where part of the get-go and the start is done with a partner, also with existing connectivity based on hardware some of these partners provide. And then when it comes to specific things, those companies say this is something that I think I can do better than any other company in the world, and then they build up their own competency.
Yeah. I mean, Diego, have you got any thoughts about important learnings that you've seen or your customers have seen that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, sure, Alan. So, I mean, one is Joseph alluded to that a little bit, is that figure out if you are trying to make money or save money. So that's what is your business model? Are you trying to optimize your factory operations? Are you trying to reduce the energy consumption in your factory? Or are you trying to deliver new services and new experiences? And one learning and something that I heard a lot a couple of weeks ago at IoT World in USA, San Diego, is that pricing is very hard to predict. Cost, how much your IoT solution is going to cost. So particularly if you are architecting your own solution, how you architect the solution may make a huge difference in the operation cost of your cloud IoT solution. So plan for that. Don't underestimate the pricing calculator. I'm sorry, the calculation. We offer some calculators that help you estimate if you're using these 3 services with so many devices. This is roughly what it's going to cost you per month. But so if you are architecting your own solution, keep in mind that some solutions, like where you're going to store your data, how are you going to do your stream analytics, are you going to use distributed databases or relational databases? Those make a huge difference potentially in the cost of your solution.
Right. Bill.
Right. No, I think that's a great point, Diego. And I have to kind of link back to a thought that you said earlier. Don't underestimate the complexity of it. That's one of the things that I think we get excited about working with partners like AWS and with Microsoft, in that by building the platform on top of the public cloud providers, we can help steer companies into what do they want to be, what is their core competency, right? So by providing access both to kind of the managed service level and then directly to the native cloud environment as well, our goal is to kind of help keep the guardrails up to help companies make decisions that keep them in the boundaries of that. And that way there's access to both the native cloud technology and to the managed services as well. So I think that that's a great point that Diego made, is there is a lot of complexity, but with I think the ability to get started fast and with a defined problem and try it fast, you can learn a lot about what it's going to be like to implement IoT in your company in a pretty straightforward fashion.
Right. Joseph, any other sort of thoughts on these nuances?
I'd like to even take further what Diego has said on the cost and on the prediction of the cost. So industry has big assets, big decisions, tend to lead to more conservative decisions, and there, first of all, companies say, I'd like to have my own environment. That means that there is a certain types of fixed cost even in a cloud environment there. And what we see is that the more cost is getting a factor, and it will get, even with industrial IoT applications, more and more a factor, people move to more a service-based architecture where you consume a service like you do in other IT fields like CRM already, and everyone is fine with it. Because this allows that the underlying infrastructure is shared amongst several customers, and the individual data point is getting cheaper for the end customer, and this does matter, especially when we go into the SMB field. So this is where we work closely with partners like Siemens to really optimize the architecture so that the best use of the existing assets that horizontal technology providers like our company can give, to drive the cost for the individual end customer to a reasonable level that it makes sense for its specific business.
Yeah, so more applicable to the SMEs, yeah.
Good things happen to people because great companies make sure bad things don't. Take Jane. When she lands in London for her sister's wedding, she's glad to see her luggage waiting for her.
Siemens helps airports avoid baggage system downtimes by proactively monitoring performance.
Siemens made sure Jane's luggage wasn't lost, and the wedding was perfect. Ted's always been nervous about getting stuck in elevators.
Siemens Analytics solutions provide uninterrupted energy to millions of people.
So the power didn't go out, Ted didn't get stuck, and he even enjoyed the ride. Jim decided to take the train today for his important job interview.
25 U.S. transit agencies use Siemens software to diagnose potential problems early and plan proactive maintenance.
Today, Jim's train wasn't delayed, he didn't miss the interview, and he landed the job. Often, what doesn't happen in the course of a day keeps our world running smoothly. That's what Siemens thinks about, so you don't have to.
That's the power of the Industrial Internet of Things.
So, I mean, what about gotchas? I mean, we all know that with any emerging technologies, we're learning very fast, failing fast as well, which is a good learning experience, of course.
Point at me.
No, it's just what you said, Bill. So we need to learn fast, we fail often, and learn from our experiences. So what are some of the gotchas that you've heard about, or things that people have been surprised at during their IoT journey?
I can give you an example where we work with a partner and customer that rightfully for its audience of customers in its home country built up an own managed service business with its own cloud. And then the first customer came out of Singapore. And then we get into discussion and helped really to serve this customer with the technology of the company, but based on our global infrastructure. And that's a thing. When you work even with companies in your home market, the probability that the application is somewhere where you've never have experienced it is quite high. So think first really on a global scale business model, because especially manufacturing facilities, stand all over the world, and this is where the data will come from. Therefore, you need to have a plan for that.
Great. Bill?
Well, I think that's a great point. I think one of the things that's really interesting is that before, people really didn't have a chance to have that kind of global view, and there is kind of the law of physics as well that comes into play here. Is there's always going to be a hybrid architecture in the Industrial Internet of Things, where there's going to be work that you're doing on the edge, right? Analytics that you're doing on the edge because it has to be completely real time, and because of maybe latency up into the cloud, there are things you have to take into account. But for the first time, we're seeing customers being able to bring in information about what's happening on that line in that factory and what's happening at the same production lines at 5 other factories, and be able to look at the overall picture of what's happening. And they really do need to be able to scale that globally and be able to operate in a global environment like that. And so the scalability is not just the amount of data, but it's being able to support the different laws and the different restrictions that you have by operating in different countries. And so that's one of the things I think that, back to your question of lessons learned, that perhaps people need to think about. You really do want to start with a small project that you understand what success means, but you really do want to think about, as you're thinking about platforms, about what are the overall requirements of your company and where do you need to scale to, both in terms of the amount of data and countries that you're going to operate in. Because while IT companies and great providers like their partners are going to have experience in the software side of that, if it comes down to supporting the automation systems of a factory or a plant or a city, you really are going to need some feet on the ground and some assistance to be able to help with that in the countries around the world.
And the segue for those watching, the next episode's on platforms. Diego, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think consider the possibility that you may be successful with your IoT project, and that you'll find yourself ingesting terabytes of data a week, like Joseph mentioned earlier, and so consider the possibility that you'll have to scale very quickly, and then you're going to start getting customers or deployments all over the globe. So you have to consider, like Bill was mentioning, data storage regulations. There are some restrictions around that, and governmental regulations, certifications on the cloud platform that are required. And then the latency, Bill also alluded to this, is the round trip from the device to the cloud may not be acceptable in your scenario. So you will have to consider processing closer to the device. And the other thing that is almost comical is that I hear over and over again is the friction between IT and OT, the information technology and operational technology. So IT are the folks that connect software systems, basically, and OT are the ones who connect machines, and they're supposed to be working together. So IT often perceives OT as reckless, naive when it comes to security, and OT perceive IT as obstacles, people who delay their implementations with red tape. So there is an organizational issue there that you have to address early. And of course, IT always feels a little bit threatened when it comes to cloud solutions. So that I think that needs to be addressed early if you have distinctive IT and OT departments.
Great, thank you.
Can I add one comment on that?
Of course.
I think that's a great point, Diego. And the other thing I think that you want to do is plan for success, as you said, right? Don't be surprised if you're successful, because the other thing you'll find is once you begin to knock down those barriers between organizations, and it's not just IT and OT, it's manufacturing and engineering, and other parts of your organization that could actually make value of the data that's collected about the digital twin of the performance in the field, being able to tie that back into the digital product twin and the digital production twin as well. There'll be many people who will be able to make use of the data that they never had access to before, and they'll bring other data sources to be able to combine that into and be able to do big data analytics on it as well. So as soon as that data becomes available, all of a sudden there's a whole new set of challenges of people that want to use it. Right. And so you need to plan for success in that arena as well.
Great, great. So I suppose, you know, just in sort of bringing this to some form of conclusion, there are obviously going to be a lot of companies that are sort of on the fence. You know, is this the right thing for me? You know, should I be looking at this? Maybe haven't got the resource. I'm an SMB. I haven't got people in the software domain who can help in this. What would you say to those people who are sitting on the fence, Bill? I'd say absolutely get off the fence, get started, try something. You know, it's so easy today to go and you know, sign up online, connect devices that are already supporting protocols that are coming out of it, and just, you know, it's since we're doing it in the cloud, it's not a big infrastructure cost. So you're just able to get on and try it out, get on and learn, have the project success criteria in mind. But there's really, you know, the biggest risk that you have is waiting, because it's the opportunity cost. Because I guarantee if you're not looking at it of how you're doing it, your competitors trying to figure out how to be more efficient or how to implement those new business models or bring in new sources of revenue. So get a team assigned to it, get a champion internally, and get started. All right, Diego?
Yeah, I second what Bill just said. Get off the fence, otherwise your competitors will before you. And back to the comment that we've mentioned over and over again, is start small, identify a small, agile team of people who are passionate about IoT, do almost like a little scrum team with people with software, electronics, industrial, and pick say, if you're trying to optimize your factory operations, pick one machine, a couple of communication protocols to get your blood flowing, and have success with that, and then grow and grow and in baby steps.
Great. Joseph?
So a lot of things already said. I think just two things to add from my perspective. Do not believe your technology architecture that you said in the beginning to be there for the next 10 years, because all of the innovation that comes from cloud providers will allow to grow and facilitate a better platform over time. If you have a microservice architecture that's loosely coupled, it's no problem. You can even also in a later point in time bring this additional innovation into your applications. And the other thing is, for the part where you want to grow the top line, get new services out, also talk to one customer or a couple of customers that you know, you trust early on. Make sure that you are really helping them, and also try to be a bit flexible in what you'll provide, because technology is really there. Finding the customer problem with all the data of the devices that you can now have with IoT technology is the real challenge, and you want to be there before your competition is there.
Great, thank you very much. So Bill, Diego, Joseph, thank you very much for your time. I think we learned some really interesting things there. Well, I certainly did. I think we're seeing a rapidly evolving ecosystem and set of technologies. Appreciate your time, and I hope that you found it interesting. We'll see you in the next episode,
thank you for having
which is going to be on platforms.
Digitization has long been ubiquitous. Billions of devices produce vast amounts of valuable data. However, only a tiny fraction of it is used and intelligently analyzed in the industry. As a comparison, smartphones have just a handful of sensors, while a single industrial motor, for example, already has about 2,000 data points. So there is a large wealth of data, but the question is, how can it be put to good use? The answer is MindSphere. But what exactly is MindSphere? As an operating system for the Internet of Things, with open standards and open interfaces, MindSphere is something of a Swiss Army knife for all connected machines and devices, regardless of the supplier. Their data is selectively collected at configurable intervals on the MindSphere platform, where it is available for further evaluation. Of course, that comes in accordance with the strictest cybersecurity standards, and only for authorized users. The bottom line, the data can now easily be linked and brought into relation with each other in order to obtain new insights that have been unimaginable before. There are apps available for precisely this task in an ever-expanding pool of apps, both from Siemens and third-party suppliers, and, if you want, even from yourself. Companies can optimize their products by evaluating how, where, and under what conditions their product is used. These insights can immediately be fed back into the production and design process to make the product more efficient and more practical. The advantage: you obtain concrete application data from real assets, virtually in real time, and you do not have to resort to generic test data. Cities and entire societies can also profit from MindSphere. Huge amounts of data are generated in the proactive maintenance of trains, the optimization of traffic flows, or with decentralized energy systems. And all these data sets can now be combined with each other and provide completely new insights. With MindSphere, we put that wealth of data to good use. This allows highly innovative business and service models to emerge and has the potential to decisively influence the world of tomorrow.